Hi, good to see you on my channel. Support the channel by liking, subscribing, writing comments. It is not difficult for you, and for me it is motivation to create new videos. I want to tell you 3 very interesting stories that will help you develop your imagination, but do not get too carried away. Just kidding. Let's go. Story number 1. This story is set in Los Angeles. Enjoy the show, subscribe, and comment. Martha and David have had strange feelings for each other for 3 years. Despite the significant difference in age and appearance, they were fascinated by each other. They tried to keep their feelings secret, but deep down they both knew it was impossible. One day they found themselves visiting Martha at his mother-in-law's family home. Martha's husband was seriously ill, and his daughter was left to care for him as a nurse. At this time, work was to be done on the property, so the presence of someone from the household was essential. The work was done very quickly, and Martha and David became completely free. At this point, they both realized that their next frank conversation was imminent, but they tried to delay its beginning. Finally, at dinner, David decided to speak up. He said he could no longer hide his feelings and wanted to be with Martha. Martha was stunned, but at the same time delighted by David's confession. She too confessed her feelings and secret intimate desires for her son-in-law. To keep himself busy, David began building a garage. Martha, appreciating his beautiful physically divorced body, decided to take the initiative and act more actively. She put on a provocative swimsuit and decided to bask in the sun, trying to attract the attention of her son-in-law. To emphasize her advantages and hide her shortcomings, she settled down in a chaise lounge near a garage under construction. She wore sunglasses to discreetly observe David. "What am I doing here?" The woman said naively. "Are you provoking me?" David joked. "I'm not denying that I want you," Martha replied, gesturing defiantly. "How can you not be ashamed? You're a grown woman." Martha laughed, realizing the situation was out of bounds, but she was willing to do anything to keep her son-in-law interested in her. Her mother-in-law's inner fire was growing stronger, and she decided to take a desperate step. "Do you really think I deserve you in bed? I could die soon, and this would be the last time?" she asked, trying to shift some of the responsibility to David. "How long ago did Mom deserve it?" He replied quietly. Rising slowly, Martha placed her hands on her son-in-law's muscular body, letting him know that this was not the end. For a few minutes, the man remained in shock, not uttering a word. Then he swallowed his saliva, realizing he could no longer look at his mother-in-law with the same gaze he had before. "Looks like I was wrong," the woman whispered, waiting for her son-in-law's reaction. David slowly ran his hand through Martha's hair and asked, "Are you going to sunbathe?" "No, I'm going to the bedroom," she replied, "and I'll be there for a while." "If you need anything, I'll wait for you there," replied the mother-in-law. In the future, Martha and David would recall that evening many times, calling it the best night of their lives. However, this evening was not only a turning point in their relationship, but also the beginning of a new stage in their lives. They became closer to each other, learned to understand and appreciate each other better. David realized that Martha was not just his mother-in-law, but an interesting and attractive woman, and Martha realized that David was not only a hardworking and reliable son-in-law, but also a passionate and loving man. Their relationship reached a new level, and they became not only relatives, but also close friends. However, their happiness was short-lived. Martha's husband found out about their relationship and became furious. He kicked his wife out of the house and filed for divorce, as he could not forgive the infidelity. Martha's daughter was also enraged and refused to communicate with her mother. David did not escape the consequences either. His wife, upon learning of his infidelity, demanded a divorce and division of property. David was left alone and destitute. Despite all the difficulties, Martha and David stayed together. They lived in a modest apartment and worked at a low-paying job. But they were happy because they were finally able to be together. Theirs is a story of love that overcame all obstacles and stood the test of time. They proved that love can be stronger than age, public opinion, and even family ties. What do you think about this story? Right, I read every comment. Good luck to all. Story number 2. Peeping is a bad habit, but sometimes curiosity prevails from childhood. We are taught that peeping is bad. However, when curiosity takes over, we are often unable to control ourselves. Victoria, a 42-year-old woman with an impressive figure, had long since divorced her husband. She had fans from time to time, but the relationship with them was short-lived. She could not stand living together and preferred to stay alone. Victoria had a hot temperament and a passionate character, so the long absence of a man in her life was unbearable for her. She again and again went in search of a companion, wanting only to have fun without commitment. Neighbors judged about her, but she did not care. Victoria's only and favorite daughter, Eva, was married to a young man named Michael. They lived separately and occasionally visited their mother. Victoria's relations with her son-in-law were even and without special problems. This situation suited everyone after all. It happens that at first the mother-in-law loves her son-in-law very much and calls him Sonny, and then, because of some minor misbehavior, he becomes an enemy for life. Distance in everything is the best way to avoid such situations. Eva too was content that there was some sort of boundary between her husband and her mother. She was a little afraid of her mother, knowing her temper. Victoria was never shy about expressing her opinion and could unjustifiably offend a person. Later, of course, she apologized, but the relationship was no longer the same. In their case, everyone communicated evenly and without claims to each other. Sometimes Eva felt sorry for her mother. She believed that loneliness is not the best companion, so they often visited her mother, bought her favorite cakes, and came uninvited. One day, they decided to do it again. Michael, go to the candy store after work and buy Mom's favorite brownies. We'll go to her tonight, the girl said to her husband on the phone. Okay, I will, he replied. In the evening, they arrived at her mother-in-law's house. She met them with undisguised joy. Come in. How good you are, she exclaimed. I wanted to call you myself, and we felt it, replied Eva. Now I'll put the kettle on, and you make yourselves comfortable. Victoria enjoyed the cakes, while Eva and Michael told her about their business. The atmosphere was warm and cozy. After tea, Victoria turned on the TV and suggested watching a movie. They settled down on the sofa, wrapped in plaids. The movie was interesting, and they were completely immersed in the plot. At some point, Victoria felt hot. She took off the plaid and unbuttoned her blouse. Eva and Michael noticed their mother-in-law's large breasts. Victoria continued to watch the movie, not noticing the stares of her daughter and son-in-law. She felt increasingly uncomfortable. It seemed to her that someone was looking at her. Suddenly, she turned sharply and saw that Eva and Michael were looking at her. Their faces expressed a mixture of surprise and embarrassment. What happened? Victoria asked. Mom, you have a beautiful mole on your chest, answered Eva. We didn't notice it before. Victoria looked at her breasts and saw a mole that was not there before. It was large and dark brown in color. It was just a mole. Victoria was embarrassed. In her body, after her son-in-law ate her with his eyes, a warmth appeared, which at night turned into desire. Her house was clean and cozy. Vitaly and Angela went through and settled down on the sofa in the large room. On the table lay magazines. The young people began to leaf through them. Listen, Mom has magazines all with interesting topics. She is certainly good, enlightens herself in this matter, the girl remarked. But why not? She's still a young woman. It's too early for her to stop being interested in such topics, Michael said, although he was surprised at his mother-in-law's interest. The magazines mostly showed pictures of muscular men in very revealing outfits. My mother-in-law is horny, I thought. She must be hot Victoria, I thought to myself. Look, wife, how these magazines are rubbed to holes. Probably popular boys in the photo, and I laughed. When Victoria walked into the lounge with the tray and saw Eve and Michael looking at the magazines, she was a little embarrassed. Oh, I forgot to put it away. It was my friends who came to me and brought them, and they didn't take them away. The mother-in-law could not lie because she did not know how to do it. She realized that she looked stupid and stopped talking. Mom, these are just ordinary magazines. They don't have anything so special, Eva said. Yes, Mom. No one can surprise anyone with such literature nowadays, Michael added. And the mother-in-law calmed down, seeing that the people close to her did not judge her. And then they drank wine and ate delicious rolls. Young people shared their news, and the mother her own. Everyone had a very nice sit-down. Mom, we should meet more often. We had such a nice chat. You come to us yourself. You are always welcome, said the girl on the threshold. They said goodbye. Time passed in its own way. Once Eva asked her husband to go to her mother and take her some oriental spices, which the girl had brought earlier from abroad. Michael said that he would take them with him, and then after work he would go to his mother-in-law and give them to her. And so it was agreed. Michael, take the keys, in case Mom will not be home, then just put it on the table. She herself will deal with the guests when she comes, said after her husband Eva. In the evening, Michael went to Victoria's house. He did not ring the doorbell, but opened the door with his key. Then he could not explain to himself why he did so, but it was not important, by and large. His mother-in-law was apparently taking a bath, because he heard water running in the bathroom. He took off his shoes and went into the kitchen, putting the seasoning packet on the table. As he approached the bathroom, he saw his mother-in-law through the uncovered door. She was sitting on a leather puffy, her bathrobe open. The woman was leaning against the tiled wall. She looked very relaxed. It was noticeable that she was experiencing incredible pleasure. There was a smile on her face. Her legs were trembling. Her mouth was ajar. The guy felt an intense excitement going on in his body, causing him to feel a shiver run through his whole body. The son-in-law also decided not to lag behind. He watched his mother-in-law, and then it finally hit him. Michael stood for a minute and, unable to stand it, opened the door and entered. When the mother-in-law saw her son-in-law, she was very embarrassed. She realized that he had been peeping at her for a long time. The mother-in-law did not know how to behave. She was so much confused that she began to nervously wrap her robe. The man took advantage of the woman's confusion and, lifting her in his arms, carried her resolutely out of the bathroom. I really enjoyed watching you. You did it so cool I couldn't stand it. And now I want to keep going. Don't stop me. It's no use. He whispered to her as he carried her. Please, Michael, don't. It's no good. The woman tried to fight back. It's not good when you can't afford to enjoy yourself. We're not hurting anyone. We're not killing anyone. We're just going to have it, and that's all. Is it a crime? Said the guy. It should be noted that Victoria was kind of against it, but not by much. It was more like a moment of indecision. All right, come on. She finally whispered. The son-in-law felt like God. He was working a beautiful miracle with this woman, and she was giving him incredible emotions. Then they lay on the bed, and the mother-in-law said, It was so good for me that now I can't let you go, and I don't know what to do because you are not mine. Moreover, you are my daughter's husband. Victoria, nothing will change. Everything will stay the same. I'll just come to see you once a week. That's all, Michael said. The woman was both happy and sad at the same time. She realized that in order to get a fleeting pleasure, it is not necessary to destroy everything. Not 1 month son-in-law came not expected to his mother-in-law. He liked to secretly enter the apartment and hope that the mother-in-law again takes a bath, and as for the first time to watch her. His wife did not guess anything, even when her husband said that he and his mother-in-law would go on vacation for a couple of days. She was glad that he was spending so much time with her mother. If only she knew what they were doing behind her back. Story number 3. I love my wife very much, but here's the story. We met in high school. Both Emma and I were innocent children then. We studied together. After school, we went to different universities. But after studying, we hurried to meet each other. In the 3rd year, we got married, and a year later, we had a son. We have been living together for 12 years. After our son grew up and graduated from junior high school, my wife's parents enrolled their grandson in a fashionable military college. And Emma suddenly turned to religion. I first thought it is her from boredom, but she was seriously involved and more time spent in temples, and even gathered somewhere there in the pilgrimage. Of course, she fulfills her marital duty and is always muttering that it is an ungodly thing to do. Needless to say, I was increasingly nervous and even look at the side. On New Year's vacation, my son was released for 10 days, and it was decided that we spent all the Christmas holidays in the country house at my wife's parents'. I had no idea how this Christmas would turn out for me. Grandfather and grandson finally found common interests and spent the whole day going on a ski trip, or to a museum, or even to a shooting range. Emma was torn between sales and stores and visiting churches, as it was Christmas, then morning service, then evening prayer. Anyway, I sat all day in the big house alone with Emma's mom. She didn't like to go shopping because she was overweight and tired of walking. But despite her age and fullness, Isabella was a cheerful woman with a mischievous humor and an eternal smile on her lips. To be honest, in my opinion, Isabella is not fat at all, and perhaps my wife's coolness in the bedroom made my view of other women less biased. But when one morning my mother-in-law came down to the kitchen in a long nightgown, I realized that I even forgot to breathe while watching Isabella moving around the kitchen. By the way, Isabella is by no means modest. Sometimes in conversations, she makes such jokes that even the neighbors witty blush. No, Emma's character and disposition are not like her mother's. She was talking to me about something, and I mumbled something inarticulate in response. But all I could concentrate on, I nearly choked when I saw Isabella lean over the table to get salt. I knew this would continue day after day. She would walk around the kitchen in her nightie, and I would stare stupidly at her charms, unable to do anything else. I could have left home to avoid this situation. One day I made a decision to talk to her. That Isabella's husband is very fond of the service. I asked my mother-in-law, yes, service. It's his whole life. I decided to turn the conversation in the direction I wanted. I hope he doesn't forget about you. I spend a lot of time alone, but I'm used to it. I would never leave your bed if I were him. She looked up from her plate. Mark, you don't have to say things like that to me. I know, I said, looking her straight in the eye. But it's true. You are a very attractive woman, Isabella. She repeated again. Mark, we don't need to talk about anything like that. I got up from the chair, came close to her. Her breathing became heavy. So I shouldn't tell you that I dream about you. She gasped. Mark. Suddenly the phone rang. We both flinched and stared at the beeping receiver. When I finally explained to the caller that he was in the wrong place, Isabella was no longer in the kitchen, and the voice of our grandson's grandfather could be heard upstairs. The next morning, Isabella started the conversation. Mark, we need to talk about what happened yesterday. You mustn't feel sorry for me, and you mustn't say things like that to me. I sat quietly across from her. You are right, Isabella, that I should take you this just to take you seriously. She got up and went to the sink. She was breathing heavily and was very tense, her fingers gripping the edge of the sink, white. I got up too and walked over to her. I love my husband, she whispered. I don't want to traumatize him or Emma. No one will know anything, I whispered to her. Oh, she moaned back. Yes, I said. "Let's go to the bedroom." "I can't on our marital bed. I can't." Then into the living room. There is a sofa there. Well, on the sofa, mother-in-law went. By the way, the sofa is wide, flat, comfortable. At dinner, I couldn't take my eyes off Isabella. I kept remembering us and the couch. It was wonderful. I even volunteered to clear the table just to take my mind off things. My wife and mom brought in a pile of dirty plates. They chatted about nonsense, and then my wife picked up the pie and went back to the dining room while asking Isabella to help me clean up the plates and remembering to grab the ice cream. When we were alone, I turned my mother-in-law toward me and heard her whisper, "What is it on you so much? It's okay, just arch your back." And this time, we did without the sofa. My mother-in-law had been glancing at the door to the dining room the whole time. We could hear them laughing at the story the mother-in-law's husband was telling, so we had time. My wife called us in just as we were about to relieve ourselves. For the next few days, my mother-in-law and I took advantage of every free minute we could get alone. We met in the living room on the first floor because all the bedrooms were on the second floor. It was even more exciting than usual because we knew that at any moment we could be caught red-handed. I don't know what will happen in the future, but now I plan to spend our next vacation at my wife's parents' house again. I'll be sure to insist on that.